Commander Cale Vorn stood on the bridge of the Zareth flagship, watching the dark emptiness of space through the viewing window. His scales shifted from deep blue to pale gray as worry filled his mind. The fleet had been traveling for 17 days through the outer rim, and every sensor showed the same terrible truth. They were being followed. The Devourer swarm had found them. Cale turned away from the window and looked at his crew. The Zareth were a proud species, their tall bodies covered in protective scales, their eyes capable of seeing in multiple spectrums. They had ruled their corner of the galaxy for 3,000 years, but now fear showed on every face around him. "How many ships do they have?" Cale asked his tactical officer. "Over 4,000, Commander. They will reach us in 6 hours. 4,000 Devourer ships against their fleet of 212 vessels. Cale did not need to be a mathematician to know those numbers meant death. The Devourers consumed everything in their path. They stripped planets bare. They left nothing but dust and silence. "What about the colony ships?" Cale asked, though he already knew the answer. "They cannot increase speed, Commander. Their engines are at maximum. The civilians..." The tactical officer's voice broke. 80,000 of our people are on those ships. 80,000. The last survivors of their home system. The Devourers had already taken everything else. These refugees were all that remained of the Zareth civilization. Cale closed his eyes for a moment. Then he straightened his spine and made a decision. "All warships will turn and face the swarm. We will buy the colony ships time to escape." "Commander, that is certain death." "Yes, but our people will live. Our children will survive. That is enough." Before anyone could respond, a new signal appeared on the sensors. Cale frowned and stepped closer to the display screen. One ship, a single vessel emerging from a nearby asteroid field. It was small, barely larger than a shuttle. Its design was unlike anything in the Zareth database. "Unknown ship type," the sensor officer reported. "I am detecting strange readings. The hull material does not match any known composition." "Hail them," Cale ordered. The communication screen flickered to life. Cale stared at the creature that appeared before him. It was strange. Soft skin, no scales, no protective plates, 2 small eyes, hair growing from its head like vegetation. It wore some kind of dark uniform with symbols on the chest. "This is Marcus Cole of Earth," the creature said. Its voice was calm, almost peaceful. "I am detecting a large hostile force approaching your position. Do you require assistance?" Cale exchanged looks with his bridge crew. Earth. He had never heard of such a world, and this tiny creature wanted to help against 4,000 Devourers. "Human," the sensor officer whispered. "I found it in the ancient records. They are a young species from a small planet in an unremarkable system. They have only achieved interstellar travel in the last century." "Thank you for your offer," Cale said carefully, trying not to insult this strange being. "But I do not think one small ship can make a difference. We face the Devourer swarm. 4,000 ships. We are preparing to give our lives so our civilians can escape." The human called Marcus Cole nodded slowly. Something changed in his eyes. A hardness appeared there, something cold and ancient that did not match his young face. "The Devourers," Marcus said. "We know of them. They visited our system once long ago. They thought Earth would be easy prey." He paused. "They were wrong." Cale felt a strange chill run down his spine. What happened? "They sent 10,000 ships to our home world. We had no fleet, no space weapons. We were just beginning to explore our own moon." Marcus smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "We threw everything we had at them. Nuclear weapons, chemical weapons, biological agents. We crashed our own space stations into their ships. When they landed troops, our armies fought them in the streets, in the forests, in the mountains. We fought with guns, with bombs, with knives, with our bare hands." "And you won." Cale could not believe it. "We lost 3 billion people. Half our population died. Our planet was scarred. But when the last Devourer fell, we stood over its body and we learned something about ourselves." Marcus leaned forward. "We do not surrender. We do not run. We fight until we win or until we are all dead. And Commander, we have had 60 years to prepare for the day the Devourers returned." "One ship," Kale said. "You are still just one ship." Marcus smiled again. This time there was something terrifying in it. "I am not here alone. I am the scout. I was mapping this region when I detected your fleet." He touched a control on his console. "Let me show you what Earth has sent." The sensor display exploded with new contacts. Kale grabbed the edge of his command chair as numbers scrolled across the screen. Ships were emerging from jump points all around them. Massive vessels, bristling with weapons. Smaller, faster ships that moved like predators hunting prey. Carriers that began launching swarms of fighters. "How many?" Kale breathed. "The Earthers have just brought in over 6,000 ships," the sensor officer said, his voice shaking. "Plus, I am counting more than 200,000 fighters and support craft." "Commander," Marcus said through the communication screen, "I would like to offer you a deal. Let my fleet handle the Devourers. Get your civilians to safety. Your warships can guard them while we do what we do best." "Why?" Kale asked. "Why would you help us? You do not know us. We have never even met before." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "Because 60 years ago we screamed for help and nobody came. The galaxy watched while we bled and died. We swore an oath that day. If we survived, if we became strong, we would never let another species face the darkness alone." His eyes met Kale's through the screen. "You are not alone anymore, Commander. You have friends. Let us show you what that means." Kale looked at his crew. He saw hope replacing fear. He saw wonder in their eyes as they watched the human fleet forming up between them and the approaching swarm. "Human," he said slowly, "I accept your offer, and I think I would like to learn more about your species." Marcus grinned. "After we finish this fight, Commander, I will buy you a drink and tell you stories that will make your scales turn white. But first," he looked away from the screen and Kale heard him speaking to his own crew. "All ships, this is Admiral Cole. The Devourers have found more victims to prey upon, more families to destroy, more civilizations to consume." His voice hardened into something like iron. "Let us remind them why they fear the name of Earth. All ships attack." The human fleet moved with a speed and precision that Kale had never seen. He watched from his bridge as the massive Earth warships powered forward, their engines burning bright against the darkness of space. Fighters launched in waves, thousands of them, moving like schools of fish toward the approaching swarm. "Their formation is strange," the tactical officer said, studying the display. "They are spreading out, creating gaps in their line." Kale watched carefully. The humans were not forming a defensive wall like Zareth doctrine taught. Instead, they were arranging themselves in a complex pattern. Some ships pushed forward aggressively while others held back. The fighters spread across vast distances, creating what looked like a net. "They are insane," the tactical officer muttered. "The Devourers will punch right through those gaps." "Perhaps," Kale said, "or perhaps they know something we do not." The Devourer swarm came into visual range. Kale felt his heart grow cold as he watched them approach. Thousands of biomechanical ships, each one grown rather than built. They looked like insects, like parasites, their hulls covered in spines and organic weapons. The swarm moved as one mind, directed by a hive intelligence that cared nothing for individual survival. The first human weapons fired. Kale had seen many weapons in his long career. Energy beams, plasma cannons, missile systems. But he had never seen anything like this. The human ships unleashed a storm of destruction that defied imagination. Railguns fired projectiles at incredible speeds, punching through Devourer ships like needles through soft cloth. Energy weapons burned across the void, each shot precisely aimed. Missiles erupted from launch tubes in continuous streams, their warheads carrying payloads that Kale could not identify. The Devourer swarm reacted with shock. The front wave of their ships simply disappeared, torn apart by the initial barrage. The hive mind tried to adapt, splitting the swarm into smaller groups that would be harder to target. But the humans had expected this. The gaps, Kale breathed as understanding dawned. They wanted the swarm to split. The devourer groups pushed through the openings in the human line, seeking to surround and overwhelm the Earth ships. But the moment they passed through, the human formation collapsed inward. The ships that had been holding back now charged forward, catching the devourer groups in deadly crossfires. The fighters that had spread so wide now concentrated, attacking from every direction at once. It was a trap, the tactical officer said with wonder in his voice. They lured the swarm into a trap. On the communication screen, Kale could see Admiral Marcus Cole commanding his fleet. The human moved with calm efficiency, giving orders without hesitation. He did not celebrate the destruction. He did not show fear. He simply fought, directing his forces like a master artist painting with fire and steel. Carrier Group 3, concentrate on the left cluster. Fighter Wings 7 through 12 form up for a strike on that command vessel. Battleship Division 2, I need you to push forward and draw their attention. We are going to crush them against the asteroid field. The Devourers fought back with desperate fury. Their organic weapons spat clouds of acid and corrosive particles. Their ships rammed human vessels, trying to board them with warrior drones. The hive mind screamed commands through space, trying to coordinate a counterattack. But the humans would not break. When a ship was hit, another moved to cover it. When warriors boarded a vessel, the human crew fought them in the corridors with weapons and bare hands. Kale watched in shock as one human destroyer, its engines destroyed, turned its broken hull toward a cluster of devourer ships and detonated its reactor. The explosion took 50 enemy vessels with it. They sacrificed themselves, the tactical officer whispered. Those humans chose to die rather than retreat. No retreat, Kale remembered Marcus saying. No surrender. They fight until they win or until they are all dead. The battle raged for hours. The humans took losses. Kale counted over 200 of their ships destroyed with many more damaged. Thousands of fighters were lost. But for every human ship that died, 10 devourer vessels were destroyed. 20, 30. The swarm began to break. For the first time in recorded history, the devourer hive mind felt something it had never experienced before. Fear. The humans were not prey. The humans were predators, and they were hunting the devourers with cold, efficient fury. They are running, the sensor officer reported, his voice filled with disbelief. The devourers are retreating. Kale watched the remaining swarm ships turn and flee. Less than 1,000 remained from the original 4,000. They scattered in all directions, desperate to escape the human fleet. Admiral Cole, Kale said through the communication channel, the enemy is retreating. You have won. Marcus turned to face the screen. His face was tired, lined with exhaustion and grief. Kale could see that the human felt every death, every lost ship, every fallen soldier. But his voice was steady when he spoke. We have not won yet, Commander. The devourers are still alive. They will rebuild. They will return, and they will seek revenge. He paused. But today your people live. Your children will see tomorrow, and the swarm has learned that the galaxy is not as helpless as they believed. You saved us, Kale said. You did not have to help us. You could have let us die and used our sacrifice as a distraction, but you chose to fight for strangers. That is what humans do, Marcus said simply. We have lived through darkness. We have suffered. We have lost. But we have also learned that the only way to survive in this universe is together. No species should face extinction alone. No civilization should die in the void without someone standing beside them. The bridge crew of the Zareth flagship stared at the human admiral with something like reverence. They had come to this battle expecting to die. Instead, they had witnessed a miracle. An unknown species from an unknown world had appeared from nowhere and saved them all. What happens now? Kale asked. Now, Marcus said, we need to talk about the future. The Devourers are not the only threat in this galaxy. There are others, worse things hiding in the dark between stars. Your people need a home, a safe place to rebuild." He smiled, and this time there was warmth in it. "Earth has many allies now. We have built something called the Terran Coalition, a group of species who have agreed to stand together against the darkness. We would be honored if the Zareth would join us." Kale did not need to think. He did not need to consult his superiors or debate with his crew. He had seen what humans could do. He had seen their courage, their sacrifice, their determination. And more than that, he had seen their compassion. "Admiral Cole," he said formally, "on behalf of the Zareth people, I accept your offer. We will join your coalition. We will stand with Earth against whatever darkness comes." Marcus nodded. "Welcome to the family, Commander. I promise you, you will never regret this choice." Behind the human fleet, the stars seemed to shine brighter. Kale watched the Earth ships forming up into escort positions around his colony vessels. Fighters flew patrol patterns, watching for any remaining Devourer threats. Medical ships approached the damaged Zareth warships, offering aid. For the first time since his home world had fallen, Kale felt hope. 3 months passed. The Zareth refugees had been given a new home on a planet called New Haven, one of many worlds protected by the Terran Coalition. The planet was beautiful, with vast forests and clean oceans. The humans had helped them build temporary shelters while permanent cities were constructed. Kale walked through the streets of the main settlement, still amazed by what he saw. Zareth children played in parks alongside children from a dozen other species. Human engineers worked side by side with Zareth builders. Food supplies arrived regularly from Earth and other coalition worlds. "Commander Kale," a familiar voice called out. He turned to see Admiral Marcus Cole approaching, dressed in simple civilian clothes rather than his military uniform. The human had visited New Haven several times in the past months, checking on the progress of the settlement and meeting with Zareth leaders. "Admiral," Kale said, touching his chest in the Zareth gesture of respect, "I did not know you were coming today." "Please call me Marcus, I am off duty," the human smiled. "I came to bring news. The Coalition Council met yesterday. They have officially accepted the Zareth application for full membership." Kale felt his scales shift to bright gold, a sign of joy among his people. "That is wonderful news. Our leaders will be pleased." "There is more," Marcus said. "The Council has invited a Zareth representative to attend the emergency summit being held on Earth next week. We have received disturbing reports from the outer systems. The Devourers are gathering again, but they are not alone this time. They have found allies." The joy faded from Kale's scales. Allies. The Devourers have never worked with other species before. Things have changed. Our victory against them has changed things. Species that once feared the Devourers now see them as wounded, vulnerable. Some are joining with them out of fear. Others see opportunity in an alliance against us. Marcus looked troubled. "The Coalition faces a war unlike anything we have experienced before. Multiple enemies, coordinated attacks, vast territories to defend." "And you want Zareth ships in this war," Kale said. "It was not a question." "We want Zareth partnership," Marcus corrected gently. "Your ships, yes, but more than that. Your knowledge, your experience. Your people have lived in this region of space for millennia. You know things we do not. You understand enemies we have never faced." Kale thought about this. His fleet was smaller now, only 180 warships remaining after the battle with the Devourers. His people were rebuilding, focused on survival. But he remembered the human ships flying to their rescue. He remembered the sacrifice of those who had died protecting strangers. "I will speak to our council," he said, "but I can tell you now what my recommendation will be. The Zareth will not hide while others fight to protect us. We will stand with the Coalition." Marcus clasped his shoulder in the human gesture of friendship. "Thank you, Kale. I knew we could count on you." 1 week later, Kale found himself on Earth, the human home world. He stood in the great assembly hall of the Coalition headquarters, surrounded by representatives from over 40 species. The chamber was massive, built to accommodate beings of all sizes. Screens displayed translations for those who could not understand the common trade language. He saw species he recognized from ancient Zareth records. The Velari, tall and graceful with crystalline bodies that caught the light. The Kroth, heavy and powerful, their rocky hides almost indestructible. The Menti, small and fragile-looking but possessing intellects that could solve problems others could not even understand. And everywhere humans. They moved through the crowd, talking with every species, solving problems, organizing discussions. They seemed to know everyone, to understand everyone. They adapted their behavior for each species they encountered, respecting customs and traditions that Kale had never even heard of. "Impressive, is it not?" A voice spoke beside him. Kale turned to see a Velari diplomat, her crystalline form glowing with soft inner light. "Very much so," he admitted. "I did not expect the coalition to be so organized." The Velari laughed, a sound like wind chimes. "The humans built this, all of it. When they first contacted us, we thought they were too young, too inexperienced to lead anything. We were wrong." She gestured at the assembly. "They do not try to dominate or control. They connect. They build bridges between species who have been enemies for centuries. They find common ground where none seem to exist." "Why?" Kale asked. "What do they gain from all this?" "Safety in numbers," she said. "And I think they genuinely believe it is the right thing to do. They have a saying from one of their old philosophers, something about how the measure of a civilization is how it treats its weakest members. They extended that idea to include all civilizations, all species." The summit began. Human leaders presented intelligence reports about the growing threat. Maps showed enemy movements, estimated fleet strengths, potential attack routes. The numbers were frightening. The alliance forming against the coalition was massive, larger than anything they had faced before. "We cannot win this through military force alone," Admiral Cole said, addressing the assembly. "We are outnumbered. Our enemies control more territory, have more resources. If we fight them ship to ship, world to world, we will lose." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Fear began to show on faces of all shapes and colors. "But we have something they do not," Marcus continued. "We have each other. We have 43 species working together, sharing knowledge, combining strengths. We have scientists who can build weapons they cannot imagine. We have strategists who can outthink their commanders. We have soldiers who will fight to the last breath, not for conquest, but for their families, their homes, their friends." He paused, looking around the chamber. "I will not lie to you. This war will be hard. We will suffer losses. Some of us in this room may not live to see its end. But I believe with every fiber of my being that we will win. Because we are not fighting for power or territory. We are fighting for something greater. We are fighting for the right of every sentient being in this galaxy to live free from fear." Kale found himself standing, his scales blazing gold. He was not alone. All around the chamber, representatives rose to their feet. Velari crystals glowed bright. Kroth rumbled their approval. The small Menti lifted their voices in unified song. In that moment, watching the diverse species of the coalition standing together, Kale understood something profound. The humans had not just saved his people from the devourers. They had given them something more valuable than survival. They had given them a purpose, a family, a reason to hope. The war was coming, but they would face it together. The war raged across 3 star systems. Kale commanded his rebuilt fleet from the bridge of a new flagship, the Unity, a ship designed by Zareth engineers using human technology. It was faster than any vessel his people had ever built, more heavily armed, better protected. And he was not alone. Human ships flew beside him. Velari cruisers provided support fire. Kroth assault vessels led boarding actions against enemy stations. The coalition fleet was a patchwork of different species, different technologies, different traditions, but they fought as one. Enemy fleet detected, his tactical officer reported. 2,000 ships. They are moving to block our advance. Kale studied the display. The enemy formation included devourer ships, as expected, but also vessels from species he did not recognize. Dark ships with angular hulls. Massive constructs that looked more like weapons platforms than proper warships. All ships form defensive line, he ordered. We hold this position until the civilian convoy reaches safe space. Behind them, 50 transport ships carried refugees from a world that had been conquered by the enemy alliance. The coalition had launched a rescue mission, extracting survivors before the enemy could finish their extermination. Now they had to protect those survivors long enough for them to escape. "Commander," a familiar voice came over the communication channel. Admiral Cole's face appeared on the screen, broadcasting from his flagship somewhere in the fleet. "We have incoming reinforcements. Hold your position for another hour." 1 hour, Kale repeated. "We can manage that." The enemy fleet attacked without warning. They had learned from their previous defeats and no longer sent their ships in blind charges. Instead, they used coordinated strikes, hitting the coalition line at multiple points simultaneously. Their weapons were more powerful than before, their tactics more sophisticated. But the coalition had grown as well. Ships from different species moved to support each other without needing orders. Velari sensor technology identified weak points in enemy formations. Menti strategists calculated firing solutions that maximized damage. Human ships threw themselves into the most dangerous positions, drawing fire away from their allies. Kale watched a human destroyer position itself between a Zareth cruiser and an incoming torpedo barrage. The destroyer took the hits that would have destroyed his ship. Its hull cracked and burned, but its crew kept fighting even as atmosphere vented into space. "Why do they do that?" his young communications officer asked, watching the sacrifice with wide eyes. "Because they value all life," Kale said quietly. "Not just human life, all life. They believe that protecting others is worth dying for." "That seems inefficient." "Perhaps, but it is also why we trust them, why we fight beside them, because we know they will never abandon us." The hour seemed to last forever. The coalition fleet took heavy damage. Ships were lost from every species, but they held. They protected the convoy. And when reinforcements finally arrived, jumping in from multiple directions at once, the enemy fleet found itself surrounded. The battle that followed was brutal but brief. The enemy had committed too many ships to the attack. When coalition reinforcements cut off their retreat, they had nowhere to run. Some surrendered. Others fought to the death. The Devourers, as always, refused to give up and were destroyed completely. When the shooting finally stopped, Kale slumped in his command chair. Exhaustion weighed on him like a physical force. Around him, his crew cheered and embraced each other. They had won. The convoy was safe. "Commander Kale." Marcus appeared on the communication screen again. The human admiral looked as tired as Kale felt, but there was satisfaction in his eyes. "Good work out there. Your fleet was essential to holding that line." "We learned from the best," Kale said. "I have been studying human military history. You have been fighting wars since before my species existed. Every battle, every strategy you have experienced before." Marcus laughed, but there was something sad in it. "Yes, humans have always been good at war. It is not something we are proud of. For most of our history, we fought each other. Nation against nation, brother against brother. We nearly destroyed ourselves many times." "What changed?" "We found something worth fighting for together. First, it was threats to our planet. Climate change, disease, resource shortages. We had to cooperate or die. Then the Devourers came and showed us we were not alone in the universe. We realized that the petty differences between human nations meant nothing compared to the dangers out there." He paused. "We transferred all that experience, all those skills we developed fighting each other, into defending everyone." It was the only way to redeem our violent past. Kale thought about this for a long time. His own species had known relative peace for millennia. They had not developed the war-fighting capabilities that humans possessed because they had not needed them. Now, facing enemies who wanted to destroy everything, they were grateful for human experience. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "your violent history was preparing you for this moment. Perhaps everything you suffered was so that you could help others survive what you survived." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "I would like to believe that. It would make all the pain mean something." "It does mean something," Kale said firmly. "Today, 50,000 refugees will live because of what you taught us, because of how you inspired us. Your pain gave birth to something beautiful, Admiral, something that will outlast all of us." The war would continue. More battles would be fought. More lives would be lost. But in that moment, with victory fresh and hope burning bright, Kale knew that the coalition would endure. Because it was built on something stronger than ships and weapons. It was built on the human capacity to care, to sacrifice, to believe that every life had value. And that was a weapon no enemy could defeat. 5 years after the Zarath refugees had first met the humans, the war ended. It did not end with a single decisive battle or a dramatic surrender. It ended slowly, system by system, as the enemy alliance crumbled from within. Species that had joined with the Devourers began defecting to the coalition. They had seen how the coalition treated its members, how it shared resources and knowledge, how it protected the weak and valued every life. Compared to the brutal domination of the Devourer alliance, the coalition offered something precious: hope. The Devourers themselves were finally cornered in their home system. Surrounded by coalition fleets from every member species, they faced a choice: surrender or be destroyed utterly. The hive mind, that ancient consciousness that had driven them to consume and expand for millions of years, made a decision that shocked everyone. It chose to negotiate. Admiral Marcus Cole led the diplomatic mission. He was older now, his hair gray, his face lined with years of war. But his eyes still held that same combination of iron and compassion that Kale had seen in their first meeting. Kale stood beside him on the diplomatic vessel as they approached the Devourer home world. He had earned the right to be there. The Zarath fleet, rebuilt and stronger than ever, had fought in dozens of major engagements. They had proven themselves worthy members of the coalition. "Are you sure about this?" Kale asked. "The Devourers destroyed your world once. They killed billions of your people. Now you offer them mercy." "I remember every death," Marcus said quietly. "I carry them with me always, but revenge will not bring them back, and continuing this war will only create more graves." He turned to face Kale. "The Devourers are monsters, but they became monsters for a reason. Their home region of space was harsh, unforgiving. They evolved to consume because consuming was the only way to survive. We cannot change what they are, but perhaps we can give them a reason to change what they do." The negotiations lasted weeks. The Devourer hive mind was alien, difficult to communicate with. Its thinking was so different from individual consciousness that translators struggled to convey meaning. But slowly, painstakingly, an agreement was reached. The Devourers would be given a region of space to call their own. Barren systems, unsuitable for habitation by other species, but rich in the resources the Devourers needed. In return, they would stop their expansion. They would stop their attacks. And they would, for the first time in their long history, learn to coexist with other life forms. "This will not work," many coalition members protested. "The Devourers cannot be trusted. They will rebuild and attack again." "Perhaps," Marcus acknowledged. "But we have to try. We have to give peace a chance, even with those who seem beyond redemption. That is what sets us apart from them. We believe in possibilities. We believe that even monsters can change." The peace held. Years passed. The Devourers kept their agreement. Some said it was because they feared coalition military power. Others believed the hive mind had genuinely recognized that endless war served no purpose. Whatever the reason, a species that had once threatened galactic extinction now lived quietly in their own space, trading occasionally with brave coalition merchants who ventured into their territory. On the 10th anniversary of the Battle of the Outer Rim, where humans had first saved the Zareth fleet, a great ceremony was held on New Haven. Representatives from every coalition species attended. The Zareth population had grown to over 300,000, their cities beautiful and thriving on the world humans had helped them build. Kale, now an elder statesman among his people, stood before the assembly. Marcus Cole sat in the front row, still alive but frail now, his great work nearly complete. 10 years ago, Kale began, my people were dying. We fled through space with nowhere to go, hunted by an enemy we could not defeat. We had lost everything, our home, our history, our hope. We prepared to sacrifice ourselves so that a few might escape. He paused, looking out at the crowd. And then the humans came. They came without being asked. They came without expecting reward. They came because they believed that no species should face extinction alone. That single act of courage, that choice to help strangers, changed the course of history, not just for the Zareth but for everyone. He looked at Marcus, meeting his old friend's eyes. The humans taught us something invaluable. They taught us that strength without compassion is meaningless, that victory without honor is empty, that the measure of a civilization is not its power, but its willingness to use that power in service of others. Today, the Coalition stands as the greatest alliance this galaxy has ever known. Over 60 species, united in peace and mutual defense. We have ended wars that lasted millennia. We have brought hope to worlds that knew only despair. We have even somehow found peace with the devourers themselves. All of this began with one human fleet, one human admiral, making a choice to help those in need. It began with valor inspiring loyalty. It began with Earth's warrior defending a starship fleet that was not his own. Kale raised his hand in salute. To humanity, to our friends, to those who showed us what it means to truly be civilized, the Zareth will never forget. Our children will tell stories of this day for 10,000 years. The crowd erupted in applause. Voices from dozens of species raised together in tribute. Colors shifted and lights glowed as each species expressed appreciation in their own way. Later, after the ceremony, Kale sat with Marcus on a balcony overlooking the city. The twin moons of New Haven cast silver light across the landscape. Children played in the streets below, Zareth and human and a dozen other species, all growing up together. You are thinking about the future, Marcus said, watching the old Zareth commander. Always, Kale admitted. I wonder what kind of galaxy those children will inherit, what challenges they will face, what enemies will rise to threaten them. There will always be enemies, Marcus said. There will always be darkness. That is the nature of existence. But there will also be light. There will be courage and sacrifice and love. As long as species remember what we have built here, as long as they remember that they are stronger together, the darkness cannot win. Is that why humans keep fighting, even when the odds are impossible, even when victory seems hopeless? Marcus smiled, and in that smile Kale saw the young admiral who had first appeared on his view screen, offering help to strangers in their darkest hour. Humans believe in tomorrow, Marcus said simply. We believe that no matter how dark today seems, tomorrow can be better. And we are willing to fight, to suffer, to die, to give tomorrow a chance to arrive. Kale nodded slowly. Then I suppose we have learned well from you, because the Zareth believe in tomorrow now too, and we will stand beside humanity for as long as tomorrow needs defending. The two old warriors sat in comfortable silence, watching the children play under the silver moonlight. The war was over, peace had come, and the galaxy, forever changed by the courage of one species from a small blue planet, looked forward to a future brighter than any they had dared to imagine. Earth's warrior had defended the starship fleet. His valor had inspired planetary loyalty, and from that single act of heroism, a new age had been born. An age of cooperation, of compassion, of hope. An age when the diverse species of the galaxy stood together against the darkness and refused to let the light die. It was, Cale thought as he watched the stars appear one by one in the darkening sky, the most human thing imaginable, and the most beautiful.